Hi, and welcome to Reddit Confessions. This story begins the moment I handed her the envelope, and she laughed. Not because the joke was funny. There wasn't one. Just a simple itinerary, printed neatly, outlining a quiet weekend away, 2 nights, 1 cabin, no distractions. I even circled a hiking trail she used to love before she stopped loving anything I planned. Or maybe, before she stopped loving me. She didn't even open it. She just chuckled, that dry, brittle sound that doesn't come from humor but from something worse. Contempt. And then she said it. The sentence I still hear when I wake up in the middle of the night. You should just disappear. She didn't yell it. There was no dramatic pause. She said it like a passing thought, like a grocery list item she forgot to write down. And I disappeared. Not symbolically. Not emotionally. I actually left. Left the house. The car. My phone. The life I built. I took a backpack, 3 shirts, and an envelope with a reservation I thought would save us. And for 72 hours, I became nobody. I slept in my cousin's storage unit the first night. Ate gas station muffins. Used a laundromat bathroom to clean up. The silence I gave her was the silence she deserved. But here's the thing. While I was gone, she celebrated. I didn't know it yet. But that weekend was never about us. She'd been planning something very different. And I just handed her the perfect alibi. What she didn't know. I saw the receipts. The ones she forgot to delete. The ones that led me straight to the truth. And now that I'm back. I'm not staying quiet anymore. I stayed gone just long enough to test something, how long it would take before she noticed I'd left. Not just physically, but truly left. No texts. No calls. No posts. No reaction. I gave her the exact thing she told me she wanted, disappearance. And she didn't notice. At least, not in the way you'd expect someone to react when their husband vanishes without a word. No missing person report. No message to my cousin. Not even a question to my workplace. Nothing. It was like I had evaporated and the air tasted better to her without me in it. But she did post something slick and curated. On Saturday afternoon, just 26 hours after I left, she posted a selfie. The caption? Weekend reset. The photo was taken at a rooftop bar in the city, not the one near us, but the one across town, where her old college crowd used to party. She wore the tan cardigan I'd gotten her last Christmas. Her hand was holding a wine glass. But it wasn't her hand that caught my attention. It was the second glass. Half full. Positioned just to the right of the frame, with 2 fingers curled around the stem. A man's hand, thicker wrist, veined, a dark leather strap around it. Not mine. And then I realized the backdrop wasn't just decorative. It was the same venue from a local event I'd seen advertised online, Singles Reconnect Mixer. The flyer had the same gold trim as the seating behind her in the photo. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she went alone. Maybe she didn't know. Maybe. But that's the curse of a man like me, we try to believe in the best version of the person hurting us, even while we're bleeding. Still, something inside me shifted. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just, awake. That night, I drove back into town. Didn't go home. I parked 2 blocks away, walked the long way around, and stood outside the apartment like a stranger. No lights on. No music. Just silence, the kind that screams louder than sound. Then, just before midnight, a rideshare pulled up. I saw her step out. Hair down. Jacket slung over her shoulder. Laughing, with him. He got out from the other side, circled the car, and kissed her. Not the cautious kind. The kind you give someone you're comfortable with. Like this wasn't new. Like this was rehearsed. I stood there in the dark, half hidden behind a neighbor's hedge, heart pounding like a coward. Watching the woman I married walk inside with another man while I stood a ghost on my own street. She never saw me. And I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because I needed proof. I needed more than pain and suspicion. And oh, I got it. Just not in the way I expected. Because what I found next. It didn't just change my marriage. It shattered what little I thought was still real. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my car, parked in a grocery store lot, sipping bad coffee and replaying the rooftop scene in my head on a loop. Every smile she gave him, every laugh she used to reserve for me, it ran like a reel I couldn't stop. But I wasn't going to break. Not yet. I wasn't done watching. By morning, the shadows under my eyes made me look like I hadn't just disappeared, but like I'd been buried and clawed my way back out. I showered at my cousin's gym using someone else's towel and changed into the second pair of clothes I had. That was when I made the decision, if she wanted to pretend I didn't exist, then I'd become invisible for real. But invisibility has its advantages, it lets you move without being seen. And that's exactly what I needed. First stop was our shared laptop. We barely used it anymore, she had her own work-issued MacBook, and I mostly stuck to my phone. But there it was, right where I left it before I walked out, sitting dead on the entryway table, untouched. The battery was flat, but I knew the password. It buzzed to life slowly, like it knew something was about to happen. I didn't expect to find much. Maybe an open tab with a hotel booking, maybe a private message or two. What I found instead was a desktop folder titled, Client Backups, Private. It was full of receipts. Dozens of PDFs, restaurant tabs, spa invoices, hotel check-ins, all formatted under the same name, J. Clemens. I'd never heard of him. But he'd been in our life for at least 4 months. 2 wine tastings. A bed and breakfast stay in Hood River. A full couples massage package dated the exact weekend I'd flown home for my mom's surgery. And the worst part? She hadn't hidden it well. The trail was messy, sloppy even. Her emails were filled with short thank yous and forwarded confirmations. One message from J. Clemens had on it. Group, simply read. Loved our weekend. No more secrets, yeah. We're good now. That was dated 10 days ago. I felt like throwing the laptop through the window. But I didn't. Because if I'd done that, it would have ended right there. No plan. Just rage. And rage wouldn't give me answers, it would only give her a clean exit. So instead, I sat down, opened a blank spreadsheet, and started documenting everything. Every dollar spent. Every date and time. Every receipt. I even cross-referenced her work calendar, and sure enough, she'd marked those weekends as corporate events. She used my trust as her cover story. But it was what I found buried at the bottom of the trash folder that gutted me. An old draft email, unsent, from her to him. It was short, unfinished, clearly written in a moment of panic or hesitation. But I read it a dozen times before I could breathe properly again. Curtis has been suspicious. He offered a trip, but I blew it off. He doesn't get it. He's just, always around. Always watching. I need him to leave first. That's cleaner. Cleaner. Like I was a stain. She had been pushing me out, emotionally unplugging from our marriage, not because she was confused, but because she needed me gone. My weekend trip? That wasn't a rejection. It was a victory for her. I was playing directly into her script. I closed the laptop. The screen reflected my face, but I didn't recognize the man looking back. He wasn't broken. He was calculating. And if she thought I was gone for good, she was about to find out just how close I still was. The hardest part wasn't what I found on the laptop, it was pretending like I hadn't. Because I had to go back. Back to the same house, the same couch, the same routine. Back into the role of the clueless husband she thought I'd finally abandoned. So I returned. 3 nights after I disappeared, I unlocked the front door at 2:07 a.m. It was cold, the hallway smelled like her eucalyptus diffuser, and my shoes were still by the door where I left them. Nothing had moved. Not even the mail. But something had changed. And I felt it immediately. She wasn't home. Not just asleep. Gone. No note. No missed calls. No panic. I checked the bedroom. Still perfectly made, untouched. Her side of the bed looked like it had been ironed. Her makeup bag was missing. So was her overnight coat. And her wedding ring. The tiny wooden dish we used to keep it in by the sink sat empty. I stood there in the kitchen, every cabinet and drawer still familiar, and I realized what this was. She had waited for me to vanish, and when I did, she moved on without looking back. The kind of clean break that only works if the other person disappears quietly. Except I hadn't. And I wouldn't. At 3:12 a.m., I opened the closet and found what I didn't even know I was hoping for. Her old phone, the one she used before upgrading last winter. She kept it buried under scarves, next to a tote full of summer clothes. I plugged it in. It flickered to life. The lock code was still the same, 1992. Her birth year. She never bothered changing it. Within minutes, I was scrolling through old voicemails. I didn't know what I was searching for. Maybe a trace of guilt. Maybe just her voice saying something real. But what I found made my stomach twist. The third message was from a week ago, a voice I'd never heard before. Male. Confident. Sharp. Hey, just checking you got the key. I left it under the stair mat like we said. Come up whenever. Room 428. I'll have the good stuff. He didn't say her name. But he didn't have to. The next few messages were from her, frantic, low whispers. Don't call me. Not like this. Delete that last one. You can't leave stuff like that. He's not gone yet. I thought he'd be, but, just wait. Each one was more rushed than the last, like she was living inside a secret she couldn't fully control. And then came the last one, dated the same night I returned. Something's off. I thought he was out, but the living room felt touched. If he came back, he didn't say anything. Maybe I'm paranoid. Just, don't do anything dumb, okay? I'll handle it. Handle it. That phrase sat with me. Rolled around in my mind until it became something else. A warning. A promise. Or maybe, a trap. Because suddenly I wasn't sure if I was the one watching anymore. Or if I was the one being watched. The next morning, she came home whistling. That's what I remember most. Not the sound of her key in the door. Not the soft thud of her boots hitting the mat. It was the whistle, off-key, cheerful, lazy. Like someone returning from a brunch date with zero weight on her shoulders. I stayed on the couch, pretending to be asleep. My hoodie draped over my face, my breathing slow, just enough to seem natural. I heard her stop in the doorway. Pause. Then slowly walk past me toward the kitchen. She didn't say anything. No gasp. No, oh, you're back. Not even a dry joke. Just silence, broken only by the sound of the fridge opening and the clink of a wine bottle hitting the counter. She was testing me. I knew it. She didn't expect me to return, not really. And now that I had, she didn't know what version of me she was dealing with. The Curtis who curled up and apologized for existing? Or something else? I stayed still. She poured a glass. Took 2 long sips. Then her voice finally cut through the air. "Didn't expect you back so soon." I didn't answer. I let her sit in that discomfort. Let her mind scramble behind her calm voice. After a long pause, she tried again. "Where'd you go, anyway?" Still nothing from me. I wanted her to feel what I had felt for the last 6 months, the drowning silence, the static in every conversation, the sense that something was unraveling while she smiled like nothing was wrong. She finally gave up and left the room. I waited 10 more minutes before I got up and went straight to the bathroom. I locked the door, ran the shower, and leaned against the tile, my head buzzing. I wasn't angry. I was cold. Detached. Like I was observing someone else's life in real time. That night, we didn't talk. She went to bed early. I stayed on the couch, listening. At exactly 2:31 a.m., I heard her get up. Bare feet on the hardwood. She walked into the kitchen, opened a drawer, closed it. Then walked to the front door. She stood there for nearly a full minute. I know because I was watching her reflection in the dark TV screen. She didn't open the door. She just stood there, hand on the knob, like she was waiting for someone on the other side, or wondering if someone was already out there. Then she whispered something. I couldn't hear the words clearly. But it sounded like, "I think he knows." Then she walked back to the bedroom. The next morning, I went through her purse while she was in the shower. I wasn't proud of it. But I wasn't apologizing for it either. I needed truth, not dignity. Inside was a crumpled receipt from a local hardware store. One item, a spare key copy. Date, yesterday. But we hadn't lost any keys. So who was the extra for? I checked the front mat. Nothing there. Then I checked under the porch siding, a loose plank I once used to hide a spare key years ago, back when we still trusted each other. There it was. A new key, taped inside a plastic sandwich bag. Marked with one word, written in red ink. Emergencies. But I wasn't the one it was meant for. And it wasn't Fallon I was afraid of anymore. It was whoever that key was waiting for. For the next 3 days, I became a guest in my own home. I moved quietly, said little, and let her believe I was too emotionally exhausted to question anything. It was a role I had perfected over the years, agreeable, apologetic, always quick to minimize discomfort. But this time, I wasn't shrinking. I was listening. Fallon's behavior shifted. She wasn't cold anymore, not exactly. She was cautious. Overly pleasant, overly helpful, like someone trying to overcorrect after a close call. She made coffee before I woke up. She sent me texts from the other room, "Need anything? Want to watch something later?" The Fallon I knew would have rolled her eyes at texting from 5 feet away. That wasn't guilt. That was surveillance. I began to notice little things, how she'd glance at the front window every time a car passed, how her phone never left her side, not even in the shower. And at night, when she thought I was asleep, she'd sneak out of bed, sit in the hallway with her phone screen dimmed low, and whisper into it. So I waited. I let her think I was sinking back into the haze she'd spent months cultivating around me. I walked around like a ghost while secretly collecting every trace she left behind, receipts, login history, fragments of messages from synced devices, even the calendar events she had moved into hidden folders. But it wasn't until I checked the garage security app, one she didn't know I had reactivated, that everything clicked. The app used to be connected to an old motion-activated camera I installed before Fallon's dad passed away. It stopped working after a power surge, or so I thought. But apparently, it had rebooted with the last firmware update. The camera only recorded 30-second clips when motion was detected. Most of the recent ones were me, taking the trash out, fumbling with bags, but one, just one, stood out. 2 nights earlier. Timestamp, 1:03 a.m. The clip opened with Fallon standing in the garage doorway, barefoot, holding a flashlight. She looked tense. She whispered something, then stepped aside. A man walked in. He was wearing a gray hoodie and jeans. Average build. Hands in pockets. His head was down, so I couldn't see his face at first. But then he looked up for just a moment. And my stomach turned. He looked like me. Not exactly. But close enough to make my blood run cold. Same height. Same hair color. Same kind of soft, slightly hunched posture. Enough for a neighbor or a clerk at the corner store to mistake him for me at a glance. Enough for someone to vouch, yeah, I saw Curtis that day. But it wasn't me. And Fallon knew that. She wasn't just cheating. She was building a replica. A placeholder version of me. Someone who could appear with her in public, someone who could explain away timeline gaps, someone she could train to pass as harmless husband Curtis until I was out of the picture. But why? Why go to that much trouble? Why not just divorce me? That night, after she fell asleep, I replayed the footage over and over. The way she spoke to him. The way he didn't touch her, not once, not even in passing. There was no intimacy. No affection. Only calculation. That's when I realized, this wasn't about love. It wasn't even about lust. It was about replacing me. And whatever they were planning, it hadn't happened yet. Which meant I still had time. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the garage in total darkness, staring at the exact square of concrete where the lookalike had stood. It felt like staring at a chalk outline, not of a crime scene, but of a future someone was planning without me in it. I traced every step of his short visit in my mind, the way he entered, how he kept his distance, how neither of them touched, how Fallon closed the door quietly behind him like she'd done it before. That man wasn't just someone she was cheating with. He was something else. A shadow with my build, a prop in her theater, a stand-in for a life she wanted to fake. And the more I thought about it, the more the pieces rearranged themselves into something far more dangerous than an affair. That's when I remembered something odd from months ago, before all this silence began. It was late March. Fallon had asked me about our life insurance policy. Said it came up during a work seminar. She wanted to make sure her name was still listed as the primary beneficiary. Back then, I thought it was a practical question. Now, in the middle of a freezing garage surrounded by shadows, it felt like the first note of a rehearsed song. I needed more than suspicion. I needed facts. So I went looking for them. The next day, while Fallon was out for a quick Target run, that took nearly 2 hours, I called the insurance company pretending I'd lost access to my online account. They asked some verification questions, and after a few tense minutes, the rep on the line began reading back some basic policy info. Coverage amount. Renewal status. Then she said, and yes, your new contact address has been confirmed for East Trail Pines. That's still correct? I froze. We live nowhere near East Trail Pines. I asked her to repeat it. She did. Calmly. As if it was the most normal thing in the world. I scribbled the address down, thanked her, hung up, and stared at the paper like it was radioactive. East Trail Pines is an hour and a half away. It's mostly abandoned now, an old development project that stalled during the housing crash. I remembered reading about it online years ago. Crumbling half-finished homes. Foundations without frames. Streets with names but no residents. A ghost neighborhood. And yet, someone had listed it as my new contact address. Someone was building a paper trail that said I lived there. I drove out that evening just before sunset. The place was exactly as I remembered from the news stories. Cracked roads, weeds taller than mailboxes, silence so thick it pressed against your ribs. There were maybe 2 or 3 finished houses scattered through the development, all empty. But as I turned onto the final stretch of pavement before the cul-de-sac, I saw it. A small, one-story house. Finished. Painted. No furniture on the porch. No lights on. But the door was unlocked. I stepped inside slowly, heart pounding like it was trying to outrun the truth. The air smelled like dry paint and fresh carpet. The house wasn't abandoned. It had been staged. The living room had basic furniture, enough to suggest occupancy, but nothing personal. A TV with no cable box. A sofa with no cushions. A lamp that wasn't plugged in. It felt like a simulation. Like a showroom designed to make someone believe I lived there, if only on paper. I walked into the kitchen. One drawer. A single envelope inside. My name on it. I opened it. Inside were two documents. One was a printed version of my life insurance policy. The other? A fake utility bill with my name and that East Trail Pines address, dated for next month. That's when it hit me. They weren't just building a life without me. They were building a story where I left. Where I vanished on purpose. Left behind a quiet staged home, some bills, a trail to follow. The kind of story people stop asking questions about. And if I hadn't come back when I did, maybe that story would have become real. But now. Now they knew I was still here. And I knew too much to disappear quietly. The next morning, I made breakfast. Pancakes, black coffee, and a side of silence. Fallon came into the kitchen wrapped in her robe, hair tied up, moving like nothing had changed. She glanced at the table and raised a brow. Pancakes, she asked. Thought we could use something warm, I said calmly. She smiled, cautiously. Are we, okay? I just nodded. And as she sat down and sipped her coffee, I watched her. Closely. Every micro-expression. Every twitch. I could tell she was waiting for me to mention the garage, the weekend, the mystery man, anything. But I didn't. Because I needed her to feel safe, safe enough to slip. And she did. By the following evening, I had everything I needed. Thanks to the staged house and the forged documents, I brought it all to a private investigator, someone my cousin Jonah recommended. Not the kind of guy who wore sunglasses indoors, but someone who understood how to follow paper trails, and expose them. Within 4 days, we had a full report. The man from the garage was a freelance consultant who specialized in impersonation gigs, hired through encrypted apps, paid in cash. Fallon had contracted him to appear with her in public places, to create moments that could later be used as proof of my presence after I was gone. She had filed for a quiet name change request in a neighboring county. She had opened a separate bank account under a shell LLC. She had, in every sense of the word, prepared for my disappearance. But she hadn't prepared for my return. That's what unraveled her. I took everything, the files, the recordings, even the footage from the garage, and brought it to a lawyer. Not for revenge. Not to humiliate her. But to make sure I left the right way, protected, clean, and with my name intact. When I served her the divorce papers, she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at the envelope like it had bitten her. You were never supposed to come back, she whispered. I know, I said. That's why I did. And that was the last real conversation we had. I moved out 2 weeks later, not to escape, but to restart. I sold my car, left the old house behind, and relocated to a quiet little town where nobody knows my name, and nobody needs to. I opened a small repair shop, old clocks, vintage radios, broken things people gave up on. Turns out, I'm good at fixing things. Even myself. And the best part? Now I disappear only when I choose to. Thanks for watching this story on Reddit Confessions. Have you ever felt like someone tried to erase you quietly? Or maybe you witnessed something that felt staged but couldn't explain why. Tell us your craziest story in the comments. We read them all. And if this one left you thinking, don't forget to like, subscribe, and come back for more on Reddit confessions. See you in the next one.